living at home, I started to deal a little bit, quarter pound, half pound. Um, and my dad would come to me and he was just a little bit scared. And he was like, hey, like, what would you do if you got caught? Like, you are dealing, like, even though it's only cannabis, like, you are breaking the law. So what would happen if you got caught? And I looked him straight in the eye and I told him, I was like, I can't lie to you. I was like, if I go to jail, I am not defending my case, and I'm using every breath I can to educate the court system, the judges, the lawyers, until they throw me in contempt and put me into the jail. Like, I told him, I was like, I love this plant, and there is something about it that I knew the laws were wrong. I knew the lawyers were wrong. I knew the government was wrong. I've done my research. I've watched documentaries. I've read so many articles, and I knew this was just the only reason cannabis is legal is nothing to do with the plant itself. It's to deal with pharmaceuticals, textiles, oil, tobacco, alcohol. It's all this influence of outside money, and it's bullshit. And I knew that if I did get caught selling, I would educate people instead of trying to defend what I did was somehow wrong, because it wasn't wrong. What I was doing was sharing the benefits that cannabis gave to me with my friends and family. And so that's when I decided, after hearing, like, when you hear the cops or the ambulance or whatever, just sirens passing by on the main streets, I would just look out the window and I'd be paranoid. And that's when I decided I should not feel this way. I will not feel this way. I'm tired of being paranoid. I'm tired of being scared. And I wasn't happy in Virginia. I could be comfortable. Like, Virginia is very beautiful, but I would never be happy there. And so I knew I had to move. And so when I did move, my dad supported me. I was trying to go to Florida, but people backed out. And then I was going to go to Colorado, and I actually went with my brother, and he doesn't smoke, but he was going to Colorado with his girlfriend at the time, and so we all met in Colorado, and I was checking out some spots to live. I found this beautiful spot, Pagosa Springs. It's the deepest hot springs in the U.S., and oh my God, such a beautiful town, and I loved it. And when I got home, 3 days later from getting back to Virginia, I was about to move out in a few months. 3 days after getting back from Colorado, I fucked up. And I went out with some friends and I got a DUI. And so that postponed my move. I had to take care of, I did 2 weekends in jail, so 4 days in jail. I didn't have to do community service, but I paid off my lawyers. I had to pay the court fees, and I wanted to take care of all that before I moved. I didn't want any of that following me wherever I did go. So during this time that I'm taking care of all this stuff, I actually had some friends move out to San Diego. And so I was like, oh, well, you know what? I've always wanted to be California. The reason I was going to go to Florida is because I didn't even think California was possible. And so I look up when they're leaving, and it's perfect timing. Like, when you get a sign, you have to follow that sign. And so the week they were moving, they were coming out on like the Friday, Saturday. The Denver Broncos were playing the San Diego Chargers in San Diego 4 days before they got here. So I flew out. I stayed with his girlfriend and her roommate at the time, which are now my great friends. And I stayed with them and took them to the Broncos game. And then when my friends got there, I helped them unpack and everything. And within probably an hour of being in San Diego, I knew this was where I was meant to be. It was just so many different signs. When I was walking around my friend's place or like their area in Pacific Beach, I came across a sign that said, "Come meet the Denver Broncos cheerleaders and mascot." So there's little things that are just signs that I was like, San Diego is where I'm meant to be. I think we all in our lives get moments that put us on a path that we're meant to be on and that we're supposed to be a part of. And I think it is scary, but if you don't take those, you're missing out. And so I think the people that are unhappy are the ones that had those moments, saw those moments, and then just never took them. And so I was not going to be one of those people. So I went home after that week. I flew back home to Virginia. My very first paycheck after that trip, I bought a one-way ticket, no insurance, no refunds, 4 months or 5 months in advance. I said, that's the day I'm going. And so I saved up through those months. I boxed all my stuff up in a box, a duffel bag, and a backpack, and I flew out to California with a wish. Had my friends watch my dog just until I could find a spot. A dog is a forever home, and so if you can't take care of one, do not get one. So flew out here, and honestly, it took a while to get in the cannabis industry. For people that I think it's booming and everything, it is, but you almost have to have experience or a connection to get into the cannabis industry, and I just thought my knowledge would be it. And so I was wrong. I was really wrong. But I wasn't gonna go broke waiting to get into the industry. So I went around to probably printed off like 50 applications and went all around Pacific Beach applying to every bar, and then happened to walk into a bicycle shop, and just gave them a resume. I had no experience or anything. I was like, dude, I'm just a hard worker. I'm just looking for a job until I can get to the industry I want to be. And so they gave me a shot, and started working at the bike shop, and then worked at the restaurant next door. But during this time that I'm working there, I'm still not giving up on my dream. On my days off, before I had a car, I was taking a bicycle and I was riding 30 miles or 20 miles to 5 dispensaries. Every day that I was off, I was applying to the same dispensaries online, and then just kept applying. And then eventually, 2 months after I got out here, I got Riley back out here, which was phenomenal. So I was even riding around with my dog in the basket of my bike, just going to and from work, and then like riding around on my days off to all these dispensaries. About a year after living here, I eventually was able to afford a car, and then I got one, brand new car and everything. And so I could go further on my days off, I would apply from anywhere from the border of Mexico all the way up to Oceanside over to El Cajon. And so I'd spend 5-6 hours every day I had off applying to 60 dispensaries, and just keep dropping off resumes, and keep calling places, and keep just looking for a shot. And so this is like almost a year in before I finally found a posting on Craigslist for a tour company. I was like, I've seen some tour companies in Colorado, like they really boomed. I was like, I think that's a great idea. And so I go and I apply, and I happen to get the job. And I met some really cool people. And then, unfortunately, that business only lasted about 4 or 5 months. We just never really got the traction, but it was really cool. We would take people, like as a tour, we would take you to a dispensary so you could purchase your bud. We sometimes would be able to get ones with a grow op at the time, so you could actually see some of the flowers. Then we would take you to Sour Glass, which is Sour. If you don't know Sour Glass, you definitely need to get a piece from him. He's the original creator of the Zong, or the like zigzag bongs. So he was the first one to start that. So he was a part of our tour, and you can see how a bong got made, which is really cool. And then we'd take you like to a dispensary or a brewery, and we'd have a few drinks, and I'd explain how hops and marijuana are closely relatives, and then also different ways to infuse your food. So like to make a salsa or things like that, and how you would be able to incorporate. So the tour company idea was so good. Unfortunately, it just wasn't ready for Southern California at the time. So after that, I actually got connected through the tour company with one of the dispensaries we'd stop at on this as a tour. And so when they needed bud tenders, I went and applied. And since I had the connection from the tour company, I got the job pretty easily. Uh, and so it was nice. I was working at Balboa Collective, or Treehouse Balboa at the time, and it was a really good experience. It made me learn a lot. There was my manager, James, and then also my coworker and friend Justin taught me a lot. Like, I thought I knew a bit, but they taught me a lot more, especially about wax and dabs and different ways to create sauces. And for people that don't know, there's so many different kinds of wax is the different ways they use it. If it's CO2, if it's ice water hash, you can use ice and water. There's also rosin, which is you're literally just taking two heated metal plates and just squishing the bud, and then just the oil will ooze out. So there's just so many processes, and they really helped educate me on that. So then while I was working at the dispensary, I was also working at Shore Club in Pacific Beach. It's a very busy bar right there on the coast. And so I was working with this one guy, Anthony, who just had great work ethic. And he worked with this company, Therapy Tonics, which makes cannabis-infused coffees, teas, and tinctures. And so before I got into the tour company or the bud tending, and for anybody that doesn't know, at a dispensary, instead of bartenders, they're called bud tenders. So it's a little play on words, but I like it. And so before I was bud tending, I was trying to get with Anthony and Therapy Tonics for over a year. Every single week, I was probably annoying this dude so much. And if any of you remember, Anthony's the brewmaster from episode 2 and has been with me for a while, a great friend of mine. And so for a year, I was trying to get Anthony to bring me on to Therapy Talks. I was like, hey man, anytime you need help, I'm there. And he saw my work ethic, so he knew it was good. He just couldn't bring me on at the time. And so there's one point in, I think it was like June or July, he gives me a call, and he's like, hey man, I need your help. And I was like, I really appreciate it, Anthony. You know I love you and Therapy Tonics, but this dispensary gave me my first real shot. And so I'm going to stick with the dispensary because they gave me my shot, and so I want to thank them with that and give them everything I have. And he respected that. But then, not 2 weeks later, the dispensary actually closed. Not kidding. So the dispensary closes 2 weeks after I say no and have this job opportunity. And so as soon as it closes, I'm like, call him up. I'm like, hey man, do you still need me? Thank God he did. And he's like, yeah, I'm building a team right now. I need you a part of it. I was like, perfect. So brought me on, immediately gets me hired. And he's like, yo, I need somebody else. So I bring on Justin from the dispensary, who taught me a lot. And so we're working with Therapy Tonics, and I started off as a brewer, meaning we made the coffees and teas, and then I just started getting more and more involved in other events. I loved connecting with people. I've always been a people person. When I was working in the restaurant, I loved bartending over serving. I felt it just created more of a connection when you're coming to me. We don't have really that pretense stuff. It's just, you allow me to be more open. And I like that open honesty. That's a really big thing that people don't understand, is when you're asking about cannabis, people don't go to their doctors. They're not going to their nurses and stuff, because a lot of them, the nurses and doctors, don't know about cannabis. Some of them aren't allowed to learn about cannabis. It's insane. And so people are coming to your bud tenders asking them about medicine. And so if the bud tender isn't educated on a product, then they're going to misinform the patient, and the patient's going to take too much or not enough,